Hey everybody, I'm Kirk Blacketton. I'm the development manager over at Capitol Stage, and I'm here with Nicole Limón, who's one of the resident dramaturgs and intimacy coordinators here at Capitol Stage. And we're just going to have a conversation today about her involvement with us, somebody that you haven't necessarily seen on the stage a lot. We want you to meet the people that make everything possible here at Capitol Stage. So, Nicole, can you give us a little bit of background about who you are, what you do outside of Capitol Stage, and what you do here too?
Yes, I do a lot of things. My name is Nicole Limón, and I'm an actor, a director, and a dramaturg, as well as an intimacy coordinator. And I also teach theater and film at California State University, Sacramento. And I don't know where I find the time, but I'm also the associate artistic director of Teatro Espejo, which is a Chicano Latino theater company here in Sacramento that's celebrating its 50th season this year.
Oh, wow.
And I also founded a company called Matriarchy Theater. So I'm kind of working all over the place, doing lots of things, having a lot of fun, storytelling, basically.
So how did you get involved with Capitol Stage initially? Do you remember?
Yes, I do remember. I actually was invited to come on board by Dina Martinez to dramaturg the show Fade that she was doing a couple seasons ago. I teach that play. She had put up a post on Facebook saying, does anybody know a dramaturg? And I actually was going to recommend someone else, but I said, I also do dramaturgy, because I do so many things. And then she said, I want you to be my dramaturg, and she invited me on board. It just so happened that during table work, I happened to be talking about an intimacy coordination workshop that I was leading at Sac State for their Festival of the Arts Week. And she said, oh, we also need an intimacy coordinator for Fade. And I was like, well, I'm available. So I kind of came in on the same show doing both things, and I've been here ever since. And it's really a joy to work with all of these directors, actors, designers, and company members. Yeah.
That's amazing. I know you dramaturged Fade and then also Fairview this season, and I think you said that those are both shows that you sort of teach in your classes, is that right?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to correct myself. Actually, she brought me on initially to dramaturg and intimacy coordinate the Hombres.
Oh, yeah, that's
so that
even,
was a couple seasons ago. Yeah.
And then you did Fade, so you did Hombres, Fade.
The Hombres, Fairview, Cry It Out, Clyde's, which was so much fun. Yeah, so I've done quite a few shows here.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite of those?
Oh, you know what? I really love doing Clyde's. And I think it was because seeing it from the very first table read to the really beautiful ensemble work and pacing that came to the stage, including not just the dramaturgy, but the intimacy work and the way that the actors were so receptive to intimacy coordination, which is still a fairly new field. That was really exciting. When I was there on opening night, I said, wow, look what they've done. Look what Tony's done, look what this ensemble has done. So that was probably my favorite in terms of the entire process. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what an intimacy coordinator does, like what and where that's come from and kind of why that's become a big part of theater.
Yeah, I got into intimacy coordination around 2017. That was the first time that I really had heard of it. And I came to it because I'm also a director, and I was having a conundrum with dealing with some kisses in a scene with an actor who was really seasoned and then an actor who was brand new. And we worked it out, but I thought, I don't have the answers. And at that time, intimacy coordination kind of came into the universe, and I started learning about workshops. I started taking workshops, and I learned that it's more than just, staging a kiss. It is about consent. So for me, even though I'm coming in, I'm helping with choreographing or directing the intimacy and the touch, it's also the moments leading up to the touch, the feelings of intimacy, the flirtations, right? Whether it is something that is uncomfortable or really exciting, desire. So what I learned about intimacy of it really is about creating a consent-forward room. I've trained with a couple of different agencies, and one of them is called Theatrical Intimacy Education. And one of their mottos is make it less awkward, right? So I do let actors know it is awkward and it's okay. I'm just here to make it less awkward. I'm not the touch police, right? I'm just here to see what are your boundaries, how do we honor those boundaries, how do we learn to say no and take agency over our body. And so an intimacy coordinator is somebody who is, staging the intimate moments on stage, but also dealing with consent, also advocating for actors, and also being there to make sure that the power dynamics are in service of everybody in the room.
Yeah, and so, just because this is an interesting topic, like there's a reason to separate the director from the intimacy coordinator, specifically because of what you said, like making it an actor forward sort of experience is important, and the director has to keep that big picture vision in place. You think that's why it's helpful?
It is, and I think one of the things with intimacy coordination is that we always start with, what is the story, right? So we are collaborating with the director, we're collaborating with the actors, and I'm in service to the script, the playwright, but also the director's vision, right? So even though I'm a director, I'm not coming in saying, this is my vision. This is, how do I serve your vision? How do we work within the boundaries that the actors have set to tell the story that you're trying to tell?
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so then pivoting to the other thing that you spend a lot of time doing, the dramaturgy, which we talked a little bit about. Talk a little bit about what a dramaturg has to do, like what are the responsibilities associated with that and why it's an important part of what we do.
Yeah, first of all, dramaturgy is so fun. I consider myself a theater nerd and someone who just loves to read and research and know everything I can possibly know. So it's like the ultimate job for me. Even though I love directing and acting, it's so much fun. A dramaturg comes in really to help the company of actors, designers, and director understand the context of everything that's in the play. And you can look at the era, you can look at the year, you can look at the setting, you can look at the characters, what they've been through, even definitions or translations of words. When I did the Hombres, for example, there was a lot of Spanish language in there, so translating all of those, not just literal translations, but what is the slang, right? How do you use this word colloquially? So coming in to give context for those things. And then it's also answering questions that the actors and or the director may have. And that's really fun, is going out and seeing, most recently on the Heart Sellers, Jennifer asked, can you please research the most popular dance on Soul Train in 1973, and that was so much fun. I remember that. I mean, I did it for like an hour. I probably didn't need to, but I just went down this beautiful rabbit hole of all of these dances, and it was so fun. And I thought to myself, this is my job. How fun. And so, sometimes just a little bit of what you're doing research-wise ends up in the play. And there was a little bit of the movement, and I was so tickled when I saw them doing the dance. And it happens for like 10, 20 seconds. And so that's really great, is to help the actors really embody the world of the character. Yeah. Nice.
I mean, it's an integral part of it. I think that context that you can give the actors it can be so helpful. And for shows like Fairview and Heart Sellers, which have opened this season specifically, they're set in such specific times and places that context really adds a lot to it. And Heart Sellers, for sure, is such a really specific time and place that I saw a lot of that come through. Those two actresses were very connected to that space and that time. So nice work there.
Thank you. And I want to credit Jennifer Chang and Nicole Javier as well, because they originated those roles, which I learned during my research. And I was like, I don't have to do as much because they knew the world. And that was exciting to learn from them as well as a dramaturg of what they brought to the table. So that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, a perfect example of theater as collaboration, right? It's never about one person. It's always about everybody who's in the room, which is a pretty awesome thing. Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you at Capitol Stage. Do you remember any of your favorite shows that you've seen over the years?
Yes, I do. Honestly, it's so funny, but honestly, Clyde's was probably my favorite show. And I've been to a lot. I was a seasoned subscriber before this. And Clyde's, I just seen that ensemble come together, and the pacing, the care that they had for each other. I mean, they're using live knives on stage, so all of the work that went into that with every single member of the company bringing that story to life. Props, the crazy props, and the lighting and the sound. That was my favorite piece. I think I came to see it a couple of times.
It has a lot of heart, that show. It really does.
And I had seen it at another theater, but I really loved Capitol Stage's, the stage, because it's so intimate, made a huge difference in the way that story was received. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of, I think, what Capitol Stage brings in general is that sort of intimacy. You're never more than sort of 50 feet away from anybody on stage, and that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So speaking of that too, you work at a lot of places, obviously. You have your own theater. You got a lot going on. Is there anything in particular about Capitol Stage that you think is important, or what do you think Capitol Stage is bringing to the table as a theater organization at this time?
Yeah, I see a lot of theater. I go to the Bay Area and I watch a lot of theater. Sometimes I watch shows before they land in Sacramento, and I'll still see the Sacramento version. But what I think that I've noticed Cap Stage doing over, I'd say maybe the past decade or so specifically, especially while I've been more immersed in theater, is really being intentional about moving the needle of the stories that we tell, who's included in those stories, the way that stories can be told. If we look at Fairview, what the playwright was trying to do there was evolve the way stories are told, right? We get so caught up, I think, in this is how we do theater, and this is how we do acting, and this is how we do Stanislavski. And there's so many methods, there's so many ways to do things. And I think Fairview and the other shows within the past few seasons have been intentional about these are the ways that contemporary playwrights are telling stories. I've noticed that we're honoring more women playwrights, right? Playwrights of color, playwrights who are writing and shifting the paradigm, and merging that in the same season with some pieces by classic playwrights who are working as well. And so I think to see a holistic view of the way theater can be done is what's exciting to me. And as a professor, sending my students to see shows here is exciting. So I sent them to see Fairview. I'm teaching directing this semester. I sent them to see Fairview, and then I sent them to see another show in Sacramento as well, which were both shows that were written by women that were so far beyond what they had been studying in school. And they're like, wow, you can tell stories like this?
Yeah.
And that's what inspires me about Cap Stage is showing not only the community, but also theater makers, up-and-coming theater makers. This is what we can do. These are the possibilities, right? It's an entryway into all of that possibilities. Yeah.
Well, that's funny too, because Fairview is almost Shakespearean, and if you just read it on the page, it's almost impossible to understand what that play is. And then when you put it on its feet, it's something entirely wildly different than what you can even interpret from the script. So.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
based
a good
on
one.
and based on the interpretation of the directors and the designers, you're going to get a different show every time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. All right, well, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.